So you're looking to get in the Star Citizen, but you're not quite sure what ship you should choose as your first ship. Hey guys, I'm Morphologist, and in this video, I'm going to try to help you guys answer that question. But also, I've put together a bit of a list for you guys of what ships you can currently purchase in the game, so that you don't feel obligated to have to spend your own hard-earned money in the real world on ships that can be easily earned in Star Citizen Alpha 3.5. So let's begin first with what I think is really important to know, and that's what ships are currently available in the game for you to purchase with in-game money. So let's begin with the first place you can go to purchase ships, and that's Teach's Ship Shop, which is in the bowels of Levski Station on the planetoid Delamar. The access point for Teach's Ship Shop can be easily located in the customs area of Levski Station. There's an elevator that takes you down to the show floor, and it gives you an opportunity to actually look at these ships up close and personal, get in some of the seats, check out their amenities, and really decide whether or not this ship is for you. For your convenience, I've compiled this list for you. So you've got the Dragonfly, the Buggy, the Tumbril Cyclone, the Drake Buccaneer, the F-7C Hornet, which is a medium-sized fighter, the Misk Prospector, which is the only mining ship currently in the game, and of course, you also have one of the best multi-crew ships, the Drake Cutlass Black, personally one of my favorite ships. Then you've also got some of the starter ships with their added packages, the Aurora CL, the Aurora LX, and then finally, the military version, the Aurora LN, which is probably the best dogfighter of the Aurora class of ship. The other location where you can find ships to purchase in-game as of version 3.5 of the Star Citizen Alpha is at Tisa Spaceport on Hurston. It's located in Lorville. It can be found just adjacent to the call terminals. It's out here on this promenade. You'll see it very clearly labeled as the New Deal, and a number of ships are also available outside of the shop where you can actually go and take a look and walk around in them just as you could at the Teach's Ship Shop. You've got the Origin M50, the Origin 85X Limited, the Mustang Beta, which has got living quarters on the inside of it, the Constellation Phoenix, a luxury Connie, and finally, my personal favorite, the Aegis Hammerhead, the biggest gunship in the game. The last place you can buy stuff is at Astro Armada at the new Arc Corp Area 18. Located on the show floor is the Anvil Hawk, a new bounty hunting ship which packs a punch and even a bonus EMP. Now, at this point, you're probably curious about how long it takes to earn these ships in-game. Well, I've put together a graph for you guys that shows the price of the ships, along with the amount of time you'd have to spend earning 30,000 AUEC per hour, which is an average that I've put together. Now, this number obviously is different depending on how you're earning money. You can actually earn a lot more if you're doing trade missions where you're buying and selling goods at certain areas, or running drug missions where you pick up drugs and sell them for a ton of money, or if you're running a ton of the bunker missions, which pay 10,000 AUEC per mission. So you can earn more than this, but I think this is a pretty good baseline, bare minimum, if you're working for a whole hour earning money. Now, there is a pretty giant caveat to this, and that's every 3 months they drop a new patch. And while it's awesome to get great new content and places to visit and new ships, the unfortunate downside to this is that they have to erase the servers, and so you lose all the ships you've purchased and all the money you've earned. Only the stuff that you bought with real money, so your starter package and your starter money, will remain after the server is wiped. This is to ensure that any corruption with their unfinished persistent database is not carried over into the next patch. Fortunately, this is something that is going to be fixed in the very near future, where they're going to have consistent persistence through every patch, and so any ship you buy in-game will remain on your account at least until the end of the alpha, which will probably go for at least a couple more years. One last thing though, just because I know some of you are going to point this out, there are 2 gray bars at the bottom for the Constellation Phoenix and the Aegis Hammerhead with 204 and 714 hours respectively. Now that's ridiculous, and that's why they're gray, and so I don't think it's practical to expect to be able to earn this between a patch, though it is possible. These are ships that are probably going to be more purchasable by organizations and groups of people, as they are multi-crew ships and intended for multiple people to be operating at one time, just so you guys know. Good news is, though, that in patch 3.6, so that's the next patch that's going to be dropping in a month and a half, they're going to be adding ship rentals in-game for in-game money, and so you'll be able to rent mostly any ship you'd like in the game without having to spend too much time investment to actually get your hands on it, which is pretty good news. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's get into why you're actually watching this video, and that's which starter ship should you choose. As of right now, there are two ships that you can choose from for your starter base package. You've got the Mustang Alpha for $45 and the Aurora MR for the same price. Now, both of these ships are very different looking and actually perform quite differently and have slightly different features. So it really comes down to your own personal play preference and, well, the style of the ship, which you prefer more. Personally, I like the Mustang Alpha visually better, but the Aurora MR has its own charm. So now let's take a closer look at the Mustang Alpha to understand the differences. First thing you'll probably notice is that it looks more aerodynamic, and yes, it actually does fly better in atmosphere than the Aurora MR. It has a little bit higher top speed and is definitely a bit more maneuverable. One of the other big benefits of the ship is that it has a larger drop-down cargo hatch in the rear, a place where you can place cargo. Unfortunately, this is not a feature that currently works in Alpha 3.5. In other words, you cannot physically place boxes on this lift. This is a future planned feature. However, you can place cargo into the cargo hold from terminals in stations and cities, and so this can be used as a trading ship. So this is a benefit over the MR. Another really big benefit this ship has over the MR are the two size 2 weapons on the front turret. They can be swapped out for a single size 3, and there's room for 2 more size 1s on the wings, making this a pretty strong little ship. The other big downside to the ship is that there aren't any sleeping quarters on the interior of the ship, which means that you cannot log off anywhere in game. Though this really isn't a big issue, I think, because at the moment there really is no benefit to logging off anywhere but a station or a city. So, in conclusion here, the Alpha is for those of you who prefer to do a bit more dogfighting, who enjoy the experience of flying both in atmosphere and in space, and maybe who want to do a few cargo running missions in between. That is one of the better ways to make money in the game after all. But there is a very clear benefit at the moment in Alpha 3.5 that the Aurora has that the Alpha does not. So let's take a closer look at the Aurora to understand. Okay, now personally, I don't really love the way this ship looks. I think that some people will love it and some people will hate it. It's kind of a divisive looking ship. It's definitely not aerodynamic, but hey, it's a spaceship. It really doesn't have to be, though it does fly in atmosphere. Now, immediately you'll notice that the entrance to the ship is really low, and we'll go back to why that's important in a bit, why this is better, I think, than the Alpha right now in 3.5. Here in the rear, it has the sleeping quarters, which allows you to log off anywhere you like in the verse, and when you log back on, you should, in most cases, if it's working right, log back on inside of your ship. So if you wanted to log off somewhere where nobody would find you, that's something you could do. Something that's not useful right now in the game, but if you're an outlaw, I guess it would be kind of useful to not have to deal with security and being arrested or shot and killed inside of a space station or city where there is a lot of police. But here's the biggest benefit of this ship right now in Alpha version 3.5. It has a cabin, which means that if you open the side door, you can throw boxes on the inside that you can take back out for trading missions. So there are specific missions where you have to physically grab a box from a terminal and drop it off at a location. This ship allows you to throw it on the inside of the ship and then physically take it out and throw it. So it unlocks a whole section of the game that you would not otherwise have access to with the current Alpha version of the game. So the Mustang Alpha, I think, is inferior in this sense. It does have the same size weapons as the Alpha, the Mustang Alpha, but they're not on gimbals, so you're going to have to rotate the ship, and because it doesn't rotate quite as quickly, it really does kind of put you at least I think, a bit of a disadvantage for this particular ship. Now, fixed gimbals and fixed weapons for most expert pilots are a good thing. Though because the ship is kind of weak, it's really not, I don't think, hugely beneficial for this ship. Now, for both the Mustang and for the Aurora, you can actually upgrade these weapons to get better weapons on the ship and better shields. You can also get 2 extra set of weapons that you can add on to the wings for both ships, so you can end up having 4 weapons, which makes a huge difference for PvP and PvE. So in the end, both of these ships are perfectly serviceable as fighter ships in space and in atmosphere. Just, I think the Alpha is, a little bit better. And of course, like I said before, because of the shape of this ship and because atmospheric effect is now in the game as of version 3.5, the Alpha flies better than the Aurora MR that you see here because simply aerodynamics matter. So this thing is definitely just a bit slower than the Alpha, which means that outrunning people is going to be kind of hard in this ship. Now let's take a closer look at both of these starter ships side by side. Here, the Mustang Alpha on the left, and the Aurora MR on the right. Now, what will be clear to many of you is that the visibility of the Mustang Alpha is superior. Not only that, the top speed in atmosphere is in fact better. Acceleration actually turns out to be better as well. So the Mustang Alpha, in my opinion, is a better ship for dogfighting. Despite this, the Aurora MR is only slightly worse. The top speed is only slightly worse, the handling is only slightly worse, and because it has that versatility of being able to handle boxes on the inside of its cabin, it makes it, in my opinion, the better choice right now for Alpha 3.5. However, although I would normally recommend the MR over the Alpha for the usability of it, right now when you buy the Mustang Alpha, you actually get the Aurora MR as a loaner because they are aware that the Alpha doesn't allow you to do the box missions. And so, right now the clear choice for you to buy is the Mustang Alpha over the Aurora MR. You will get both ships right now if you buy the Alpha. Now, some of you may be already thinking at this point, I want something a bit more expensive, something cooler. Well, this video really might not be then for you. This really is more for those people who are still kind of unsure about Star Citizen and only want to really get in on the Alpha and back the game for the smallest amount. This part of the video, then, is really for those people. The next part of the video is going to be for people who maybe are a bit more confident in Star Citizen and its release, its upcoming release, and so they are willing to spend maybe just a little bit more money for the game. Not too much more, but a little bit more money. And so I'm going to now share with you my personal recommendation for somebody who's willing to spend just a bit more than the starter package. So in my mind, there are two clear choices here, and it really comes down to your personal preference and playstyle. The first is the Origin 300i. It is one of the best single-seater versatile ships in the game. It has a drop-down cargo lift, which can currently be used and is accessible. It has a sleeping cabin on the inside of the ship, and is perfectly fine as a fighter, using either gimbals or fixed weapons. So if you wanted to go gimbaled, you'd have 3 size 2s. Want to go fixed, you'd have 3 size 3s, which is nothing to scoff at. It is a very competent fighter. While the 300i is one of the best ships for a single-seater fighter for your first ship getting into Star Citizen, I think the Aegis Avenger Titan is the #1 choice, my #1 recommendation, and here's why. While the Avenger Titan might not be the best fighter in the game, it certainly is no slouch. It has 2 size 3 slots and 1 size 4 with gimbals stock. And it has an accessible cargo hold in the rear with a drop-down door, which means that you can park a buggy or one of the future motorcycles, which is yet to be added to the game, in the rear, which means you can bring a vehicle with you for certain missions. It can also fit the Drake Dragonfly, a small little bike-like hovercraft, which I showed you earlier in the video. This version of the ship that you're looking at is actually the Stalker, which has 6 cells in the rear for holding bounties. This is a bounty hunting ship, but the Avenger Titan will have an empty cargo hold where you can park stuff in the rear. Now, like the 300i, it does have sleeping quarters. They're not as luxurious, but they're perfectly fine. It has a little toilet, has a little bed, and it has even some accessible doors here to actually get at some of the components that you'll be able to replace by hand in a future update. And that's why I really do think that the Avenger is the better choice for you over the 300i. Now, if you really like the styling of the 300i, I think you're still going to be happy with it. It's still a competent ship. However, the Avenger really is the better of the two. It might not be beautiful, but it gets the job done, and you're going to be able to do a lot more in the game than you can with the 300i. Now, although I believe it should go without saying, I want to spell it out very clearly here for you guys. This video is not for those of you who are still on the fence about Star Citizen. This is for those of you who've decided to take the plunge. If you're still on the fence and you want to know if Star Citizen is for you, don't buy the game, because you might regret it. First, check out some streams and check out some of my videos. Those will tell you whether or not the current state of the game is for you, whether or not you should wait a little bit before you back the game. If this is your first experience playing an alpha game, it will be frustrating. Alpha games can be difficult experiences. Stuff doesn't always work. Development takes time, and halfway through the process, or not even halfway through the process, the game is not going to be perfect or even in sometimes a playable state. Currently, Star Citizen is playable, although it does have a lot of bugs. Personally, I still find myself playing pretty much every single week, but everybody's gonna have their own opinion, and I'm sure you've probably heard about it already on the internet. So in conclusion, out of all the ships you've seen here, I think the starter ships are just fine if you're wanting to just get your feet wet. You've always got the option to upgrade later using the upgrade system. However, if you're a bit more confident and you wanted to get the best option for your first starter ship, then I highly recommend the Aegis Avenger Titan. Now, I do have some recommendations if you're looking to play with more than one person on the same ship. That'll be for a separate video. This is for those of you who are going to play the game a lot solo. So I really hope this helped you guys out who are looking to get into Star Citizen. And if you are getting into it, don't forget to use my referral code here on the screen. It'll give you 5,000 extra AUEC starting cash when you start off in Star Citizen, and it also helps me and my organization out work towards getting a Javelin, and so that's the benefit to us when you use that starter code. Now, I understand that the website can be somewhat difficult to navigate for newer players, and I think they need to improve that, and so I've added links to all of the options I've shown here on this video in the description below so that you can directly go check out these ships for yourself. If you guys found this video helpful, fun, or entertaining, please let me know by hitting that subscribe button and leaving a comment down below. Anyway, I hope to see you next time.